with the permanent move to 3 hours in the past month, with 2 hours now going head-to-head with Raw, not only not slowing Nitro down but seeing the show hitting the highest-rated string of shows in its history, with the company hotter than ever. February 16th, with Raw preempted for the week on the USA Network, saw WCW targeting all viewership records on the night by building up a big tag main event featuring the two top Super Brawl pay-per-view matches facing each other, while continuing to ride the boosted interest from the heated Hogan vs. Savage dynamic, with the first in-house NWO feud next in line as the top program in the company, seeing the show setting the expected record with a 5.1 overall rating, with strong growth in each hour to end with the Hogan and Savage vs. Sting and Luger main event closing the show with a 5.5 rating in the final quarter. As the Hogan vs. Savage build-up to their first in-house NWO pay-per-view match was heating up, with personal shots and back-and-forth promo exchanges, including a talked-about confrontation last Thursday on Thunder, driving the show to its highest-ever rating with a 4.3. 4 days later, Nitro continuing to set show records on almost a weekly basis, with all the lines blurred between work and shoot comments. March 9 saw things taken to the next level after a week of internal clashes between the two top NWO camps, with Bischoff, Hogan, Nash and Hall setting things straight hours prior to Nitro starting to air the legit issues on television, leading to all three cutting promos to play off it and put them over as the three founding members of the NWO that will never turn on each other, setting up a massive star power six-man tag main event with Hogan, Hall and Nash against Savage, Sting and Giant in a clash, also focusing on the three top singles matches for the uncensored pay-per-view, going 7 minutes in the final quarter to jump to record levels, while in the process dropping Raw to a show low 3.3 rating despite advertising a Tyson interview along with Austin's response follow-up in the Triple H match, with the WCW main event gaining over 700,000 viewers to an all-time Monday Night Wars record 5.7 rating to continue the big momentum heading into the pay-per-view Sunday. In the second consecutive unopposed week after breaking all viewership records last Monday, WCW, with another chance to draw a record audience, saw Nitro build on a show-long Warrior vs. Hogan's NWO Hollywood, with a chase all over the building throughout the night, opening fast with Hogan's reaction to Warrior's backstage attack just as Nitro went on the air, with the show steadily picking up viewers throughout the 3 hours to go from 5.3 in the first to 6.7 million viewers between 10 to 11 p.m., with Hogan returning to the ring at 10:57 for the show-closing confrontation built for the past 3 hours to call out Warrior in a segment, closing the night with over 6.9 million viewers in the 5-minute overrun, making the full broadcast the second most watched in cable history, only behind the record set the previous Monday. After drawing the second biggest pay-per-view in company history, with competition more intense and in bigger numbers than ever before, WCW pulled what ended up another winning trick by airing the full replay of the Hogan and Rodman vs. Page and Malone Bash at the Beach pay-per-view tag match, hyping it over the first 90 minutes of the broadcast before placing it in an over 20-minute commercial-free block at 9:45 p.m. into the third hour, leading to one of the biggest rating spikes in history, with the show jumping from a 4.2 to 6.5 rating within 15 minutes, a huge viewership increase of over 50% of the audience to make it the joint second highest rated quarter in Monday Night Wars history, along with Savage Hogan on April 20th to trail only Hogan vs. Goldberg's 6.9. With the company peaking in every department to start 1998, all records were expected to be shattered when a spring break special hyped for weeks was set to go unopposed on March 16, as with the show also coming a day after one of the most loaded pay-per-views in company history at Uncensored, headlined by Hogan vs. Savage. Nitro was built on the follow-up of the Savage-Hogan feud, with them continuing to set new milestones on almost a weekly basis, building it up in 2 separate promo segments over the first hour, with both Hogan and Savage hyping the match, targeting a blockbuster number for them teaming up in an NWO reunion against Sting and Luger in the main event, with WCW climbing strong throughout the night before entering record territory never reached before in cable TV history. with the third hour becoming the first hour of wrestling TV to enter the 6 rating range driven by the hyped tag match, with the Hogan and Savage vs. Sting and Luger main event, which also featured Sting making an all-time spectacular helicopter entrance, going 7 minutes over the final quarter to peak at a massive 6.6 rating with over 7 million viewers, the most watched segment in the history of cable television and the biggest wrestling audience since the WWF's early 90s NBC specials. "7 days after seeing its 83-week winning streak ended by Raw, with the company for the first time since mid-1996 preparing for a Monday night on the losing side, WCW set up a loaded show planned for the response to gain back the lead, with the company advertising both Hogan and Goldberg challenging Savage and Raven for the World and US titles in the top 2 matches of the night, as with WCW having a depleted crew last Monday as an out for the loss without several major players, including Hogan, with the chance to re-establish his top status on the night by putting on the blow-off match of the hottest feud in the business since the start of the year, with Savage vs. Hogan for the title on television, coming almost 2 hours after Goldberg's title win over Raven drew the biggest opening quarter in history with a 5.7 rating. Randy Savage vs. Hulk Hogan, with 10 years of history at the top of the industry as a contender for the biggest money feud the business has ever seen, with them holding numerous pay-per-view gate and viewership milestones in both companies, adding another one on the night with the most watched match in cable TV history, going 16 minutes in the main event, jumping huge with over 2.3 million viewers to an all-time record 6.5 rating with over 7.2 million viewers, smashing the record 6 rating drawn by the Austin McMahon confrontation the previous week by an almost a million viewers margin, while outdrawing Raw in the final quarter by a record of nearly 3 rating points to drive Nitro back to the top of the charts with its highest rating in history on an opposed night, drawing a 5.1 rating overall. With the hype for the debut heating up throughout the week, August 17th was all but confirmed as Ultimate Warrior's Wrestling TV return after over 2 years with WCW, while can't legally advertise it in advance, strongly hinting it taking place on the night, seeing Hogan and Bischoff after the 2 strongest hints to date by both Hogan and Page in promos during the first hour, returning to the ring midway through the second to set up the big segment of the night, with Hogan setting the stage before eventually bringing out Warrior for the 8 years in the making confrontation, with Warrior cutting a 12-minute promo to one of the biggest viewership spikes in wrestling TV history, with the segment which started at 9:27 p.m. with Warrior arriving 4 minutes later, despite being unadvertised, gaining huge with over 2.3 million viewers to draw a near-record 6.4 rating, making it one of the 4 highest-rated segments in Monday Night Wars history, with the broadcast, perhaps with the anticipation to Warrior's debut, seeing a massive increase in viewers per home to lead to the Hogan-Warrior quarter confrontation hitting 7.3 million viewers in the second most watched segment in cable TV history, only behind the Hogan-Goldberg match on July 6. The biggest week in the Monday Night Wars to date saw both companies going all out on August 24th, with WCW looking to build on the momentum of its most watched month in company history against one of the most loaded draw shows of all time, 6 days to the SummerSlam pay-per-view, setting up the main event throughout the first hour, with Goldberg and Nash agreeing to team up against Hogan and Giant in an hour, drawing an overall record 5.5 rating. Seeing the entrances for the main event tag match, which also featured the first clash of Goldberg and Hogan since their title match in Atlanta, taking place at 10:40 p.m. to gain big with close to 2 million viewers to a near-record 6.5 rating with over 7.2 million viewers for the full final quarter, before jumping a million viewers further past 11 p.m. with the show crossing close to 2 minutes past the top of the hour to see it spiking huge to a 7.4 rating with over 8.2 million viewers for the show closing brawl, indicating on the tag match rapidly picking up viewers throughout the final quarter to result in the massive number for the overrunning the highest peak viewership ever recorded on weekly wrestling television. Megastar saw the promoted biggest Nitro in history built around him in front of the biggest crowd in wrestling television history in his hometown of Atlanta, with Goldberg in front of over 40,000 matches on the night first against the returning Scott Hall in his first TV appearance in 3 months, seeing the match crossing from the end of the second hour to the start of the third, picking up a big to a 5.4 rating in WCW's highest rated segment in almost 3 months. And after 3 hours of all-time great hype building up the main event, Goldberg and Hogan came out with 15 minutes to go to one of the hottest atmospheres the business has ever seen, going 8 minutes with the match shattering every all-time Monday Night Wars and cable TV record to jump huge with over 1.8 million viewers to an all-time record 6.9 rating with over 7.4 million viewers, breaking the record set by Savage vs. Hogan on April 20th with the final minute. Austin and McMahon on commentary with a record gap of 3.1 rating points, on the back of the 2 Goldberg matches, with Hall and Hogan regaining lost momentum from the month of TNT preemptions to win the night for the first time since April 20th. After drawing its highest ever opposed rating the previous Monday, and with Goldberg's title run Warriors debut and both NWO factions in full star power, leading to Nitro having its most watched month in show history, all indications pointed to WCW going unopposed on August 31st to smash all previous cable records to reach the biggest television audience for a wrestling broadcast since the WWF's NBC specials almost a decade earlier, with the broadcast matching the high expectations to set both all-time cable rating and viewership milestones throughout the night, including the first hours to average over 7 million viewers between 9 to 11 p.m., headlined by a big tag main event of Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart against Sting and Lex Luger, promoted as the first time ever Hogan and Bret team up on television, going 12 minutes into the 7-minute overrun to bump Nitro to over 7.5 million viewers for the end of the match and show closing angle of Warrior after watching the NWO from the rafters throughout the night, coming down to take them out for a show closing Hart-Hogan confrontation and the continuation of the build to the 2 major Hogan matches against Warrior and Bret coming up.